been working as a research advisor at the University of Otago now on and off about 7 years now. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my role at the university, which lies at the interface between the university and funders and researchers. So just a little bit of background about myself. I followed the traditional route of doing bachelor's, master's, PhD. During my PhD, my fellow postgrads that I shared office with, we all noticed that there was a really big increase in students' scholarships being offered by various universities and a massive influx of postgrad students joining the university. And we're thinking, there's only so many academic jobs out there, where are we all going to go? And so we all had this kind of feeling that there's a job shortage in the academic arena. And what we found, I'll just click on to here. The then Ministry for Research, Science and Technology put out a report about science PhD students and where they go, and you'll see that 3/4 of those science PhDs very early in their research career were moving out of science and moving into other jobs, and only less than 2% were becoming professors. So with that in the back of my mind as I was finishing my PhD, I think that actually helped me to broaden my mind and to look further out and abroad for other job opportunities that there were beyond academia. So what does a research advisor do? So I work for Research and Enterprise at the university. There are 13 of us that work across all campuses in the university, and what we are primarily are research managers. So we help to develop relationships with researchers on a one-to-one basis. We learn about their research, we understand their research and help them translate that information and present it in a form that is at the right level and pitch for the assessors who provide the grants. We will review those grants for them. It's not just proofreading, we're helping them to find the gaps that they may have had in their proposals, for example, because they're so much the expert in that area that the story doesn't quite flow, so we help to make that story presentable for somebody who's reading from an outside perspective. Another aspect of our job is that we follow the university policies closely, so that we make sure that anybody who's presenting their research for assessment meets the university policies as well as the guidelines of the funder. So we've got a balancing act there. A large proportion of the job is managing risk as well. So, for example, if there is somebody with a novel research idea that has potential for development, for commercialisation, we help to connect those people, for example, with Otago Innovation or with our business development managers, so that they can secure some additional funding and support for that project. So we provide strategic advice for researchers at the individual level. For example, if there is an early career academic that's just joined the university, we help to map out and plan that research trajectory over a number of years. And so we can say, there's a funding opportunity here to fill in for your working expenses here, you've got a postdoc opportunity here, and we'll build up that research program to the point that they're able to apply for major funding. A huge portion of our job happens post-award, so we help to negotiate the contracts for the researchers as well. If there's any changes that happen during that research program, we help to interface with the funders and negotiate changes for the benefit of the funder as well as for the research program itself. Every day we ask a ton of questions to make sure that the work carries out smoothly, and we answer a load of questions coming from all of the support services that help to support the research, for example, finance and at departmental level. So this here is just a list of the transferable skills that we use in the job on a daily basis. We have, I'd say that we rely on all of these skills heavily throughout the course of a project and working with people that we have relationships with. So The good news is if you're interested in this type of role and you've been doing a PhD or a postdoc, you actually have been developing these skills through the course of your work. So when the university puts out a job advertisement for research advisors, they're looking for people with PhD qualifications because they've been developing these skills through the course of their work. So I'm going to do a little bit about the good bits and the bad bits of the job. The good bits is that the job fit's actually really quite broad. When I first started as a research advisor here at Otago, I was a health sciences research advisor. I had a PhD in physiology. I've spent a few years overseas doing a research manager job in philanthropic funding, but I've actually come back and I'm a research advisor for the Division of Humanities now. So I work with sociology, geography. I have no background in those areas at all, but what I do is I read that work and I help to translate it and make sure that it's being communicated clearly. The positions that are advertised, a big plus is that there's job security. Most of the jobs that get advertised are permanent positions. Sometimes you'll find that with larger funding opportunities that PIs will actually incorporate into their budget a project manager to work on that specific project. So there are an increasing number of positions that are fixed term that are starting to be advertised. Job flexibility, one of the bonuses of the job, you can go on parental leave for a year, somebody will do your job for you, you'll come back. We have people who work part-time. On our team, we have people who work remotely as well. So we've got someone who is completely off campus. So long as you've got a phone, computer, and internet access, you can do the job. And that's no barrier at all. So there is a lot of flexibility within the role. It's extremely challenging and rewarding. I'd say that there's no 2 days that are the same. Of course, all of you will know that research is very varied and things don't always go to plan, and sometimes things turn pear-shaped. We're there to help to work out those problems and help to get the best outcomes for the researcher and for the funder. So we're there to be able to make sure that everything moves smoothly. And I've said every day is different. Opportunities to help grow research for others is a really rewarding part of the job. So for example, moving from one division into another, I'm seeing new opportunities for where researchers perhaps have been working more in their discipline but not seen opportunities outside of the division, and so I'm starting to be able to make introductions across divisions for more multidisciplinary work. And so that's really rewarding when you see a new project starting off because we've got a new relationship there. Another benefit for this particular role in research management is that most universities and research institutes around the world have research offices and have positions that are like this. So we have, there's 13 of us that are working as research advisors. The name of that job title around the world could be known as a research manager, a research advisor, grants and sponsored programs manager, research coordinator. They're all flavours, the same sort of job, and there are many offices around the world, and I picked up a job in the States relatively easily when I went over there to follow my husband when he was doing a postdoc. So here are the not so cool bits. Like I said, there's 13 of us as research advisors, but there's only 2 positions above us, so there's not opportunities so much so for career progression. Sometimes people will perceive that a research advisor is just somebody who proofreads the grants. There's actually a lot more that goes into the job than that. And one of the big ones is about multiple deadlines and multiple demands. So you'll all be familiar that there are funding rounds that happen. They've all got deadlines, and each one of us has a portfolio of around about 100 different researchers. So if you've got a major funding round, you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be needing to rely on you to help get those applications submitted. So it's sort of like, it used to be that it was peaks and troughs, now it's sort of like peaks and bigger peaks. So it can be very busy at times, but and it can be a little bit high stress, but part of the relationship building process is you get to know the people well enough to be able to work with those people who you know like to work early, know who's going to be a little bit closer to the deadline. And another bit that I've put down that is a potential negative is it's not actually the leading role. So you're there as a facilitator and you're there to help get the research across the line. So I don't see any of those really as a negative aspect, but I put them up there just as a flip side so you can kind of see other aspects of the job. So I wanted to finish off with a couple of other resources. So I showed the statistics at the beginning of the presentation, and if you fast forward, the European Science Foundation has a report that they released in 2017. It's not exactly the same methodology, but it's a really good resource for looking at the sectors that PhDs move on to in terms of their careers. So some of the interesting points that came out of that report. It's good news that employment levels for PhDs is much higher than any other tertiary qualification. One of the differences of that report was that compared to the New Zealand study is that the majority continue working as researchers in the 6 to 7 years post-PhD, whereas the statistics in the other figure seem to suggest that quite a few leave earlier. It also showed that, or discussed that more researchers are looking for careers outside of research rather than vice versa. But job satisfaction is different depending on whether you're working in research or in non-research areas. So for those who are in research, the intellectual challenges is where the job satisfaction's at. And whereas for the non-researchers, they were more satisfied with salary, job security, and work-life balance. So one of the interesting points about that particular report was it identified that there was a need for more formal training in transferable skills when people are considering moving outside of research. And on the last page here, I've got, if you're considering a non-research career, I think one of the really important things to consider is broadening your networks. I've got to say that I've had 3 networking opportunities that I wasn't really expecting to have happen, and they all ended up in job interviews for me. My first job was actually here for Research and Enterprise, and the contact was actually the biotech sales rep that I used to work with in the lab. And she moved into that job, and I was like, oh, what's that job like? And can you tell me a bit more about it? And that was quite surprising. Another one was when I actually was being called to be told that I wasn't successful with a job application. And I was talking to the recruiter and said, am I overqualified, because I was applying for something that was more of an administrative role. And that recruiter said, yes, you're overqualified, but that opened up a conversation with that particular person, and she said, there's an internal job that you haven't seen because it's not posted publicly, and I think you're the perfect fit. So sometimes it's being at the right place at the right time and talking to people. So keep an open mind. If you are considering a career outside of research, give it a try. There's no harm in it. If you don't like it, go back into research. And the last point here, there's a Facebook page called Cheeky Scientist, and if you're considering careers outside of academia or in industry, they have lots of free webinars and resources there on developing your transferable skills and CV skills. And the guy that put it together, he was a PhD who moved into industry. And that's me.